Ladies and gents, you are very welcome. This is a special edition episode of the Iron Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Iron Ian. I have previously been able to bring you the breaking news that USAPL was opening up a federation here in Ireland. Today, I am joined by Wade Johnson of USAPL all the way in America, and we're going to have a quick chat. We're going to go through some questions, some points of concern and curiosity from many of the Irish lifters that are both excited and nervous about what this means for the future of the sport here. Wade, thank you so much for giving me some of your time. It's greatly appreciated.
Well, it's really good to be here with you, Ian, and I'm very excited. Just to tell people who I am. I am USA Powerlifting's International Committee Chair, and I've been doing this almost now for a couple of years. And if you've been paying attention and following along, it's grown rather rapidly. I wouldn't say by nature of how many countries, but just the response and the interest. As I've gotten the third email this morning from someone from Vietnam, as an example. Um, just quickly, we will be launching where we're actually having meets 2024 with new countries besides you guys, Mexico, believe it or not, Pakistan. And that's just to name a couple. So, basically what I do along with others is I do the outreach and the communication, and then I continue to work with, folks like yourself to ensure, all of this is new. And while what we have in common with every federation on the planet is powerlifting, obviously some of the rules are a little different. It's drug tested, and then there's a level of what we want organizationally and as a membership, what we're looking for with the meet experience, so on and so forth. And that is taking a lot of stuff and condensing it into a very little. So that kind of gives you an idea of what I do. And I have background in this. People that have, if they've looked into my past, I've been part of other federations. That's not a question. And I did this with Southern Powerlifting as well, Southern Powerlifting Federation. Um, we became an international organization. We weren't the internet. We became an affiliate to another organization or another international organization, and I was part of that process. And so I bring that experience from three different strength sports, so that you understand. As an athlete, I have competed in strongman, Olympic weightlifting, and powerlifting, and have managed a little bit of success. And so as an athlete, as a meet director, and now in this position, hopefully what I bring to the table is not only some experience as an official, but also as an athlete, because we run events as well, and we run events in all three string sports here. And what we've learned in this day and age is it's not just going to a meet or a contest. We want to have a great experience. And so my background quickly is in production and within the entertainment industry, and as a facility manager. So a lot of that comes into play. And then I own a gym on top of it. So, at least I'm busy. So I've got that going for me. So anyway, that kind of gives you a brief overview of what I currently do and some of my history. And hopefully that gets us started.
A man that's worn many hats by the sounds of things. Lots of
Well,
different
that's
skills.
sometimes that becomes a necessity, as you well know. When you own a gym, if I had to, every time there was an electrical issue or I need to add a plug, I need to add a light. If I had to contract that out, that dips into the funding pretty quickly. So having that background of being able to do those things, and to, like today, well, I was telling you earlier before we came on, I was doing carpentry work because I was building jerk boxes for our Olympic lifters, because it's always interesting, what people find, what they like, or what they'll take the time to hit the like button on social media. I squatted 1,000 pounds, 3 likes. My puppy dogs or jerk boxes, 700. So that's it. That keeps me humble and gives me good perspective.
Well, I'll tell you something. We talk about social media and the things that generally get the most traction or the most likes or attention. I run a podcast here in Ireland, primarily based around powerlifting, called the Iron Mindset. And one of the most popular episodes to date was when I held a panel episode. I had Jay Farrant, Gar Ben, and Ian Benson. These are the three meet directors for USAPL Ireland. And we sat down, we had a talk, and it was great. People were very, very excited to see what's coming for tested powerlifting. And I think that's probably a great place to ask you some questions, Wade, about the USA powerlifting, its history, and what brought us up to this point. So, can you tell us a little bit more about USAPL and where it's come from?
Well, on the website, there's a page of who we are, and USA Powerlifting was established in 1981. It was the American Drug-Free Powerlifting Association, and we became. I don't have notes in front of me. We became the American affiliate for the IPF, and that you fast forward really quick. A couple of years ago, there was a divorce, if you will. That really the majority of what it was is basically the IPF version is we wouldn't become WADA compliant. And, we organizationally didn't want to not test at the local. We felt like the foundation of what we do is testing. And, there's people that'll argue back and forth about those types of things. And, but ultimately there's an expense with being, WADA compliant. And we couldn't organizationally look the membership in the eye and go, hey, if we maintain this, we are going to go bankrupt. And too many people have worked too hard for this organization to be where it's at. And then it was, we wanted to test at the local level. I feel like that everybody feels like this part of the organization, that the hallmark and the cornerstone of the organization is your local level lifter, that on the weekend that is going to go to a meet, 3 or 4 times a year, that they have a level playing field, both for the novice lifter all the way up to the hyper elite. And when you start testing at that level, you can argue with me all you want, but I think it's a preventative. Although, the playing field becomes something that you're accustomed to, and people with integrity, you start from that point, they maintain that integrity. And, so we felt very strongly about that, and we parted ways. And when we did that, we launched the pro concept that is gaining traction, and decided we would reach out and see if they're out in the international community, if there were people that were like-minded and wanted to join us in becoming an international organization. And that's, man, is that condensing a lot, but we only have so much time. And, but, there's a broad history here, but the hallmark of it is having a level playing field. I feel strongly about, for the people that choose to use performance enhancing drugs, I'm not mad at you. I don't dislike you. I will sit down and drink a beer with you. I will, if you need me to look at a video and go, hey, what do you see? Can you help me out here? I'm happy to do that. What I ask you to not do is lift in a tested environment. There's ample opportunity everywhere for you to do what you want to do and how you want to do it. Don't sneak double ply briefs under your single ply suit. There's places where you can do that. Trust me, I know. I've done all that. I've lifted multiply. I've lifted with people that weren't tested, and so everybody should be able to experience it. They should be able to experience the sport in the manner that they want to and how they feel led. But what we don't want is we don't want someone infringing that creates an unlevel or unfair platform.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
I
lot of
re-
words to go, don't cheat.
I do remember now at the time myself. This is like when this was all unfolding in the States. I remember Johnny Candido actually made a video about some of this with the split and the different testing protocols and how under the WADA testing there was very little testing being carried out in a lot of different countries. So this is what drives our curiosity here because we have a very, very extensive tested scene here in Ireland. Despite our country being quite small, we have quite a good cohort of powerlifters, many of whom are very excited. And I'm essentially here to act as a soundboard to ask their questions to you. So
Absolutely.
you've given us a good and I totally get it. It's probably a very long story that got us from where USA Powerlifting started all the way to today and what brought about the split between the IPF and USA Powerlifting. However, I'll ask some of the questions that I think will resonate mostly with the lifters who are here, who are listening, who are really want to know what their next step should be. So one of the main ones is going to be what would be the main differences in the drug testing between USAPL and the IPF or WADA?
Or that we do it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's really what it comes down to. We mandate that every meet, come hell or high water, that 10% of the lifters get tested, and we round up. If there's 33 lifters, 4 people get tested, and we also are very active. I work very closely with Joanne Craig, who's in charge of doping control, and we have people that watch, where if we see something in the database that looks unusual, then we'll have that person tested. And I can tell you, it's public record when somebody gets, when they test positive. I won't go into the details. There was one of our countries that onboarded. Um, Something seemed a little unusual, so he was out of meat tested, and he popped.
Mhm.
And so clearly the testing at every level, it works. This person was caught, and so though that I think is the major difference. I mean, I'm not going to get into this whole tit for tat thing. It's well documented my opinion of the past, and I think it's more about what we offer versus what we think they are versus what we are.
Mhm.
I strongly believe that what we do production wise at the high level is probably the one person that I can say confidently that can match some of the production that we do is your own Jay. I mean, Jay does some incredible work, which he was the first one in Ireland that I reached out to right when this started. And
Mhm.
and for all the obvious reasons, so anyway, Jay's a vodka guy, so we've got our work cut out for us whiskey guys
Yeah.
have got our work cut out for us. So
Yeah.
I
Good luck.
was, yeah, I'm like, man, what are we going to do?
Well, do you
but
know,
but but
wait,
ultimately, go ahead.
you mentioned earlier on, you said you were talking a lot about, the athlete experience and how the meets are run and presented. And with Jay and his vision for the AB series, that was a massive, massive piece of the puzzle for us was we wanted to consider how the spectators enjoyed the day and the amazing sport that is powerlifting and how we present it, but also for the athletes to give them bigger stages, bigger platforms, and for those people that are now opting into tested meets, we want to make sure that they are being presented with the most level playing field. So I think that's one of the really exciting things about this move for us here and USAPL coming to Ireland. I'm very, very excited. And I know many of the people listening will be as well to have the production value of what we have seen at the AB series and then also being able to do it in a tested way. Because as I'm sure you were aware previously, the AB series is primarily presented untested. So this is now us giving that same level of athlete experience and amazing crowd spectacle to our tested athletes as well.
Well, I mean, that's why do you think nationals here in the United States? I mean, it's the premier event on the planet,
Mm.
and it's why I mean you have a meet over 4 days that has 1,150 slots and it sells out in a matter of a few days. That's ridiculous. And it goes to show you not only nationally but globally how the sport is also growing. I mean, one of the things that I would love to bring up, this morning I got an email from the national office, and we monthly get a report on where our membership is at. At the beginning of all this, there was a podcast, the first podcast that Ryan Carrillo did with Dr. Larry Maley, our president. They were talking about where our membership numbers were as we were coming out of the pandemic. And in 2021, I think we topped out mid 20,000 area, that's huge. I mean, that's big. It was just about a grand under our all-time high, which was pre-pandemic. And I was sitting in my office, as you see right now, thinking, boy, it'd really be cool if this international thing were to take off and we could eclipse that record, going into 2022. And at the end of last year, we had over 27,000 members. And, our count now is even higher than it was at the end of last year currently. So, what we're seeing is this massive growth. So that tells us a number of things, that people want a tested environment. Again, I'm not saying that, the untested folks can't have their own platform, and that it's, I watch the lifting. I know a bunch of those people. If you've ever seen Westside versus the World, the head judge in a lot of those videos is me. I lived all that. I knew all those guys. And so, it's still incredible to watch. It's still, it's why we love the sport. But now we're seeing where the tested environment is getting some kudos and some traction, and you're seeing a pro outlet and a huge international, rate of growth, so to speak. And someone like Jay, I mean, what he brings to the table is immense. So I've gone way past what you were asking, but I mean, it is an exciting time where you're seeing opportunity that has not presented itself in the past.
No, listen, you're singing to the choir here. You're singing from the same hymn sheet as us here. Like, we're really excited for this because, like you said, we love all aspects of powerlifting, and really what we're trying to do is present our amazing athletes all over the world with more options and more opportunities to lift. And I think that's why conversations like this are important, because realistically it probably doesn't fundamentally boil down to it's us, it's them. It's, well, here is now another option, another avenue for people to experience this fantastic sport. But I do have a question on that then. So if I'm a new lifter and I'm coming into the scene and I want to lift in tested powerlifting, what would make me choose USAPL over some of the alternatives?
Well, mainly the experience, but and not only a great experience, but an experience that we're actually doing the testing from the ground level to the highest level. We are testing and we're watching. We're not like like we're not, it's not like the Gestapo where we're going to make sure we're watching, we're paying attention. Anything that looks unusual, then we're going to look into it.
Mm.
And then I think the other thing, where when you have that kind of platform, you see even at the local level that meet directors are holding the standard and the quality of the meats really high. Then that is an attraction. So it's from the ground level to the highest level. And by the same token, we believe that people get to choose. I think that's probably another major difference, and probably why this took so long. You have people like Jay, like Gar, like Ian, and other people. They're gym owners, they're coaches, and a lot of their income is derived by coaching people at meets, programming for meets, and those types of things. And we don't suspend you if you lift somewhere else. We believe that we have a product in USA Powerlifting that if you choose to go to other places, then so be it. But we feel like you'll be back. I've always, in an example that we all can understand, it's like going to a restaurant and ordering a hamburger. All right. How different are all those cheeseburgers? So what you're going to do is you're going to return to the place that served a great cheeseburger, had great service and a great atmosphere. And you'll go back to you might due to proximity, convenience, whatever the case may be, there are people that lift in USA powerlifting that like to lift multiply as well. Well, why would we organizationally begrudge them that? Or they lift in, they compete in strongman or Olympic weightlifting or whatever the case may be. We feel so strongly about what we do and the service and the the experience that we provide that we believe you'll come back, and those numbers pretty much indicate that to the T. That
Hmm.
is the main difference.
I think that's actually a bit one of the biggest selling points, though, as well. You touched off there about not getting suspended for wanting to lift somewhere else or try something different. I think that's going to be a major draw for people because, as I'm sure many people listen and know, there is something called Article 14, which is a big deal in the IPF at the moment.
Of course it is.
Mm.
Well, and you're seeing the post that you know it's one of those things that there's precedence legally. I'm not sure where it stands right now. I think in England it was voted as illegal, and I understand that England is no longer part, of the EU.
Mhm.
But this is coming, But it's one of those things where it's like, and I know Guard touched on this because I was tagged in and quoted. But the point of the matter is if I'm let's go all the way back to the roots level. A guy,
Mhm.
girl, an athlete gets involved in powerlifting. They train really hard, and the expense of training hard and learning how to compete to the point that you can now go to your nationals and you go and you win and you get tested, and then you get tested because you're getting out of meet tested because you're going to worlds. The thing is that the only contract that you have is that you're drug free and that you're going to pay the entry fee. And my theory is, and the way it works in the rest of the world in business, if I'm paying my way, when the event is done, we're even. I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything. I paid for the opportunity. All of that was executed, and now we're even. You don't, because I'm not under contract. I understand the whole WADA compliance thing. Okay, because yes, of course, powerlifting is headed to the Olympics. Does anyone really believe that? Does anyone really, or is anybody out there holding their breath that that is actually going to happen? It's not going to happen. And nor would I want us to lose control of the sport, to the IOC to make that happen. I'm not interested in that. I'd rather us have a pro model and the international model that we're working on, and that we continue to cultivate, and that we continue to expand where it can be even more inclusive to more people. That makes a whole lot more sense than every 4 years the elite of the elite of the elite may get to compete. It's never going to. They don't want Olympic weightlifting in the Olympics. So why would I hold my breath on something that's simply not going to happen?
Mm.
So like you touched on something that obviously touched on a nerve there. I think that's the thing. We believe in what we're doing, and that's the direction that we're headed, and we feel like we provide the best opportunity to do that.
Mm. And I think that's what makes it such a big deal and why it's gonna, I think, be a bit bigger news as we come into 2024, 2025, especially with everything that's coming. So if I'm a new lifter and you mentioned it there, you're not going to be penalized for wanting to lift at other meets. You're not going to be penalized for lifting in other federations where, as you said, you pay your entry fee, you come and you lift, you're drug free, you're drug tested, you're drug free. That's your compliance. That's deal done. But are there any other rules that are going to stand out as different between the IPF and the way USA powerlifting does things? Is there anything else in the rule book people should know about?
Well, let's maybe not a rule, so to speak. Now we went back to the traditional weight classes, and I think that was the right move. Why be confusing? While we're doing a few things differently, that's with events. But the tradition of the sport, I think that there's something to be said for that. And do we eventually revisit, like the super heavyweight class in both genders? I mean, people, let's be clear. When I was coming up in the sport, you would occasionally see a 300-pound guy. There'd be one guy at a meet. Well, that clearly that has changed. And so you saw the 308 weight class or 140 kilo weight class, and then everybody's a super heavyweight. At what point when you've got a myriad of guys that are 350 to 370 pounds, and then you got other guys that are 315 to 320, I think the numbers are getting to the point to where someday it's not something that we've discussed organizationally, but just as an aside. Now, what I think the bigger difference is not what the rule is how we treat the sport and how we treat the meet directors. So here's what you have to do to be part of USA Powerlifting. You have to pay a membership fee. Everybody in the whole wide world, if you skateboard in some federation, something that is recognized, something that is organized, you're paying a membership fee. If you square dance, I don't know if you know what square dancing is, there's places that you go drink at a bar. There's places you have to have a membership and you pay a fee for that membership. Then as a meet director, there are certain things that you have to do that are no charge to you, but then your cost from there is a sanction fee and the drug test, which we don't make money on the drug testing, and actually we discount that. And that's what you owe us. Now you have to run it to certain standards and stuff like that, And again, I'm condensing here, but that's not the way it is in all organizations. I don't need to point fingers. You guys are well experienced and you know exactly what in the hell I am talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So what we feel strongly about is that we can't have great events without great people and great meet directors. So we cultivate that relationship. And that allows us to cultivate a meet director base that is not only going to be loyal, but they're going to go out of their way to create a great experience for the lifter. And then if they're successful, they take all the risk, but we're not coming in after a meet director has busted his ass all year planning some big event like Jay does and then scooping that money up. We're not doing that. So, and I'm sure there's going to be people that when they hear this podcast, they're going to post all these reasons why that's great. Ask the guy that is writing the check. Ask the guy that's writing the check what's going on. Don't listen to me, follow the money, and ask the guy that's writing the check. And I think he'll tell you what you need to know. So, but I mean, we've seen like Australia as an example. One of the first things that some of the meet directors did is they couldn't believe the difference in their margins. They were actually making a profit, and it's expensive. It's, you gotta rent a place, you gotta buy the equipment, you gotta get all that stuff over there, you gotta have staff, and you gotta feed them, there's the after party, all that stuff. And it doesn't take long, and you've spent several $1,000s, And if anybody's telling you different, then Wade Johnson said they're lying. You can quote me. They're lying. I run events. I know how much this costs, even with people that are sponsoring things and they're paying for things. And then the immense cost in time with your planning and everything else. So why would we punish someone by coming in and taking money that we didn't earn? You see what I'm saying? And that is the big difference. And notice you still have to squat to death. You have depth. You have to pause the bench, and you have to lock your knees out on the deadlift, and you can't drop the weight. It's still, that the basic rules are basically the same. We allow you to lift your head on the bench now. Woo. But you also, if you can touch and you can press it out, it's a bench press. There's not, are your elbows breaking parallel kind of thing. So, and
Amazing. No,
and
I
and
think
to each their own, I mean,
yeah.
I get some people want to, that a world championships and the prestige of that is still very important. Well, we're going to change that too.
Amazing. No, and I think we had this discussion when I had the three meat directors from Ireland on my podcast, and we were talking about that. Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money in the thing you're passionate about. And these three guys have a track record of consistently reinvesting into the sport, making their clubs better, bringing their lifters up, and in Jay's case, running bigger and better events. And I know 2024 is going to be no exception to that. So I think everything you've just said actually stands to reason as to why this is an excellent choice for people to get involved. They're going to be treated fairly, held to a good standard, but again, be if they're taking all the risk, they're going to get the reward for the hard work they've done.
Exactly. And why wouldn't we want that? The thing is that you create a membership base that helps fund the things that we have to do organizationally, and every member gets to reap the benefit of that. And so, those are hugely, it's what it not only does it allow growth and cultivation, but it allows us to have staying power. And again, we expand the horizons of what the sport can provide. And that, which is why this is also very important to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I remember a day when, you lifted and on shit gear and it was sketchy and, all that there might be a fight that broke out during the meet and all this, so things have evolved quite a bit to, not just having a meet, but having this great experience. And I think that's, something that we're going to expand on as we go, and that we're going to create opportunity for more people to experience that, not just at the local level, not just at the regional level, but also at the international level. Well, that's why I have a job.
And I love the sound of it because even as we touched off the pathway some people seem to be on, particularly in the IPF, about trying to get powerlifting into the Olympics. There's people like me and many people here in Ireland who we love powerlifting. We want tested powerlifting to be given a big platform, but we're not necessarily looking for it to go to the Olympics. So I think this is probably the next logical step for people who want tested powerlifting to have a big stage, but don't want it to be run by the IOC. So I think this is a phenomenal opportunity. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I think, you know, and we always want to be diplomatic. I'm not interested in disparaging a bunch of people, but all you got to do is look at the past with the Olympics and the organizations that are responsible for that. And it's like, why would I want to be part of that? It frightens me, and I think what it would do then is compromise the integrity of what we're trying to achieve organizationally. There, let somebody else do it. Best of luck. If the IPF gets powerlifting into the Olympics, I will be the first one to applaud it. Now, would I bet against it? Yeah, my money and yours too. So, that's where I stand.
Absolutely. And listen, I think that's the beauty of it. Like we can have so many different flavors of the same thing, but I know which version or which vision for the future of powerlifting I personally prefer. But speaking of big international stages, next year we have some amazing opportunities coming in USA Powerlifting with the World Cup and the Euro Tour. If you want to tell us a bit more about those.
Yeah, that gave me chill bumps, and it's just I know that sounds ridiculous, but so Mark is a good buddy of mine from England, Mark Giles, and I've drank a bunch of beer with that guy. He's a good guy, but in powerlifting, he is synonymous, and with his history,
Mhm.
and he was discussing with me his idea of events that would facilitate people being able to more people being able to be engaged and be part of an international event. And that's how the Euro Tour was born.
Mhm.
Um, he met and you guys there in Ireland. He's very well acquainted, and he and Jay are friends. And I mean, it doesn't take long. Like a bunch of us. if we were at a local bar, would drink a little bit of whiskey and we could rule the world, so to speak, So that's how that was born. And I think it's brilliant on his part because it gives a lot of people a lot of opportunity that they wouldn't have otherwise. The traditional way we did things is you would lift at your state meet or a regional meet and qualify for nationals. If you won nationals, then you were on the national team and you got to go to worlds. And that service is less than 1% of anybody's membership, regardless of the size of the country. And that's a great event. That's a great way of doing things. But it also excludes, 99% of your membership, and for the people that want to have that experience, but are never going to lift at a world meet, I think it behooves us we don't have to water anything down. We just need to offer more opportunity. By the same token, our sport has grown. We're basically going to have increased our membership base in a 2-year period by 50%. I'm not a smart guy, nor am I a mathematician, but you don't have to be very bright to go, that's a lot of growth in a very short period of time. And so what happens to us when globally we have 50,000 members? Is my one world championship with age brackets, is that going to service enough people to keep them engaged? And I don't think you have to be very smart to understand that is not going to be the case. People are going to go where they have opportunity and they want that experience of lifting with people from other countries and being in places that people want to go. I want to go to Limerick and see a meet and go to the distillery there and hang out with you guys. I want to go to Horncastle and drink beer with Mark and the guys there and see a meet. That's places I want to go. And so, and people that I want to see. And I think that part of the experience as well. It's been way other places where you did not want to go. And so we're thinking about those things as well.
Amazing. And I think that's it's a great way to think about it as well, because as you said, your powerlifting membership has increased by almost 50% in a very short period of time. And it speaks volumes to how popular powerlifting has become even in the past 5 years or so. You're an OG, you've been around for a long time, you've seen it evolve and level up as time has gone on. And I think this is a fantastic time now, even if we've got like new powerlifters listening who are in the game less than a year or two, like to be presented with so many opportunities coming into 2024 with the likes of the Euro Tour and the World Cup. It's I can see it being huge.
Well, let me speak to the World Cup, and I'll tell you why that one is so important to me. That is my concept, and where that came to be, so you understand the history of it. Now, when I say it's my concept, it was an idea floating in my head. There's a lot of people that were involved to make it a reality. So I don't want to come across as that I'm some sort of creative genius, because that would not be true. But my experience in Olympic weightlifting, I started with masters, and here's why. Well, because I've got a lot of experience being a master age lifter. I'm an older guy. You said OG, so I pretty much have to own that at this point in my life. In Olympic weightlifting, they have this great Masters series, and it's hugely supported and attended. And I thought, what better way, to start creating opportunity by they have a World Cup in Olympic weightlifting. It's a tier down, so to speak, from the World Championships, justifiably so. And that was the route that we went. And what we did, because we were so new with our membership base, our footprint, so to speak, internationally, that we made it open to people that had lifted in a drug tested event, verifiable drug tested event, to cultivate it. There will be people that will thumb their nose at it to go, well, it's not that prestigious because you didn't have to qualify for it. Well, I mean, it's also the first one. And if you're that good, we'll come and win it and continue to win it as it cultivates and it grows, and then eventually it grows to a number that we have to have those qualifying totals. But right now, it gave us an avenue to provide opportunity, and that is literally the word that we've been using the entire time we've been speaking, is opportunity, and have inclusive opportunity for many people to experience. And so it allowed us also as a point of cultivation to go, hey, Ireland, you're not currently an affiliate when the first meet happened. If you have a verifiable total in this point in the calendar, you're qualified. Come and experience USA powerlifting at a high level. And so here that led to us launching what is going to be called the Student World Cup, and obviously next year the Open World Cup, and ultimately those will become our world championships. So what does that mean? What happens to the World Cup? Well, time will tell. That remains to be seen. I will tell you, just like the idea process that it took us to get to this point of having these World Cup events, there is equally as much work going on to cultivate what happens to the World Cup as we continue to grow and evolve and expand. It's not going away, is what I'm saying. We're going to, there more again. We have to start thinking what happens as we grow. What happens, if you guys are coming on in 2024, and when 2026 rolls around, your membership base for USA Powerlifting Ireland is tripled. Now what? See, those are the questions that we're trying to ask, and how do we be preemptive? Because right now, due to the separation from the IPF and launching a pro concept and launching an international, aspect of what we do, we're playing catch up. Well, we're eventually going to catch up. And the thing is that we're riding this wave, it is not out of the realm of possibility in the next 3 to 5 years that a membership base nationally that was 20,000 members, that globally is over 50. Well, that's 50,000. That's over doubling the membership. To give you a concept of why this is so important and why I push this is, and last year, we had, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but we had over 400 events, sanctioned events in USA Powerlifting. This year, as of this morning, based on through the end of October, it was just a hair over 540. Now that's growth in 1 year. And you guys are going to add to that. You guys got a tentative calendar out there, and how long do you think it's going to be before that meat load doubles and triples? It won't be that long. Not knowing Jay and Gar, I don't know. I don't really have an established relationship yet with Ian, but here's the thing: when England came on board, then the Netherlands, and then you guys, it doesn't take long in business to go. That puts pressure on the other people. Mm-hmm. I mean, where if people are making decisions based on the choices that they want to make, regardless of what may happen, like suspensions and things like that, and I know you're going to want to touch on that, eventually people will follow. Mm-hmm. And I assure you, and my job is to put pressure on those people to follow. So, but we have to be forward thinking in the events that we're offering, and singular world championships for each gender and age bracket. I mean, I'll ask you, do you think that's enough for, a membership that's going to double and maybe triple over the next 10 years?
No, you've answered the question yourself. As with the trajectory we're on, we're going to want to present way more opportunities for our lifters, for our athlete base to be able to perform at the highest level. So I think, as you said, things like the World Cup, things like the Euro Tour, the ability to give athletes of different levels the chance to take part is going to mean much bigger attention for the sport overall. More people are going to stay in it for longer, and I think more people are going to come to it. I think we're only at the cutting edge of the popularity of powerlifting right now. I think this is actually the perfect point for the early adopters, not only with powerlifting in general, but particularly here with USA powerlifting. I think this is going to be one of those turning points now where you've got those people that are on the fence thinking about what it could mean to lift in another tested federation, but maybe there's that fear of the unknown. What if the grass is not greener? But the reality is, if the trajectory we see even remotely, if it plays out remotely like what we think, I think most people would already know the answer. They just have to be daring enough to make the leap or take the jump or take the risk.
Sure. I mean, it's why I wouldn't say I've necessarily had sleepless nights, but there are times where all you if there's guys out there. Well, Dr. Larry Maley will tell you there's times where he gets messages from me at 2:30 in the morning because I've gotten a message from somebody and I woke up long enough to look at it and I'm like, I better answer this question, or there's times where recently, and 2 weeks ago, I was with the leadership in a meeting with leadership from Australia and their chair people. Well, I mean, they're on the other side of the planet. I had to be up at 3:15 a.m. to get on their call at 3:30 to 5 o'clock, so but that's what you have to do. And why I'm bringing that up is because of the trajectory of, let's just say it reaches only partial of what the potential is. We're still going to have to work really hard, to be able to maintain what the demand's going to be, which I find very exciting. It's very challenging, but I find very exciting. And that's why I'm so excited about you guys coming on board, because I think it lends credence to the very core thing that we all love about not only powerlifting, but in the manner in which we want to do it, the way we want to present it, and the way that we want to produce it.
I know for me personally, I'm excited. I get to present at events like the Ab Series. I lift as well, and I've been at all different types of meets, whether it's the Ab Series, whether it's our own IPF affiliate, the Irish Powerlifting Federation, and now getting to bring my own athletes as a coach. I get to bring my athletes to the USAPL Ireland, our version of it. That to me is really exciting to get to show them that there's so many ways we can do this thing we all really enjoy and we all love.
Well, and it gives you some ownership of what you do. I mean, you
Mm,
guys are in charge of what you do. I mean, I can't stress that enough. Whereas a coach, you have the ability to take your lifters where they're going to have the most ample opportunity and on a fair playing field. I mean, that's and it will grow in the manner in which you cultivate it. That puts you in charge.
mhm.
I think that's an immense thing. That, in my opinion, that is one of the bigger aspects that is attractive about this for other countries coming on board.
For sure. And I think that's like kind of a key thing as well when we talk about the amount of responsibility involved in tested powerlifting. An equal part, if we're going to adopt all this responsibility, it's great for us to be able to have a degree of authority over it as well.
I mean, without question. I mean,
Mm,
and again, but the thing it does is it bonds us all and it galvanizes the endeavor of what we're trying to achieve, and to do that at a global level. I mean, we all have the opportunity, even in a very small way, to create powerlifting history. And again, that's why I'm involved. I mean, that's legacy stuff.
mm,
And I want to be part of something that I think is doing it the right way, and that is taking care of people. And again, the reason why we love this, I'll give you a classic example. In the world of athletics, especially strength athletics, super heavyweights are very different in competition versus the lighter weight classes. This is maybe something you've never noticed. Even in a highly competitive situation, super heavyweights will hang out, share food, and talk. And during a meet, I've done this at world championships where all of us are eating each other's food and chit chatting and that sort of thing. And why would I share that? That is the beauty of what we do. Now let me be clear. As a competitor, I want to kick your ass. I want to win. I'm not, if I'm going to the Worlds, I'm not there to go, yeah, I just want, I'm just proud to be here. No, I'm not. I want to win. However, in the process of that, I want, when we're done, I want to be the first guy to buy a round of beer for all the guys that were out there pushing each other to the limit and busting our ass. And then doing it on the platform in which we feel is the way to do it. What is better than that? I want to be with people that I would want to break bread with, have a beer with, and drink a whiskey with. That's what I want to cultivate.
For
And that
sure.
we do this, and that we push the person that is squatting 100 kilos, that he gets to have that opportunity to hit a 102.5 in front of not only his peers locally, but his peers across the world. I think that's not everybody has their own 1,000-pound squat. It may not be 1,000 pounds, but they have their own goal. And to provide people the opportunity to do that on a broader level, that's the beauty of it. Nothing will bring people together like super heavyweights, like good food, good beer, good whiskey, and a great time. And that's why I make that correlation, because the people that we're closest to, here in the States, Christmas, or across the world, Thanksgiving, all these events, their family, their team, we're eating food, and drinking a beer, and having a glass of wine, and that camaraderie, that companionship, that kinship, that of what we belong to, and then being able to produce that at a global level. I think that's what this is all about.
For sure. I think it speaks volumes. It's essentially there's room at the table for everybody.
Well, that's the whole point.
Mm.
Hmm.
Well, let me
So
ask,
that's,
let me ask.
go ahead.
So you've kind of touched off it somewhat as we've been going through here, but like, what is the big picture for USAPL throughout the world? What's the vision you have for the future?
Well, obviously, we want to continue expanding, but not at the cost of the values and the level of production. That we want to maintain the integrity of what we do and how we do it. But there have been countries that have expressed interest, and they didn't want to do the things the way that we do it, and that's cool. You certainly have that option, but this is not going to be a fit. And while that's frustrating and disappointing, that's just part of it. Um, what I want to work towards is that we expand to other countries, and that we have opportunities to grow the events that we do. I mean, there's some things that I'm not going to talk about right now because they're all on paper, and we tend to I'll tell you, let me tell you a great story. So, I was working really hard. I've had a lot of people help me, and they put a lot of work into it too, to launch the Masters World Cup that we did back in May. And we had, people helped me. I wrote out this explanation of what it was, and the national office took it and worded it in a manner that it wouldn't sound like me, because I sound like a country bumpkin, as you can tell by my accent that fell off of a turnip truck. But what I wanted to achieve with the World Cup and selling that concept, and we were at the Larry and I were having breakfast, and we were talking all the business stuff that I needed to get him caught up on, and I really was trying to sell this concept, even though we were about to do the first meet. And we have to run in there real quick to the meet site because the meet's about to start, and Gino is doing all of his introductions, and he introduces Dr. Maley, and Larry is doing his announcements and stuff like that. And he says, this is the first event of the World Cup concept. The train is leaving the station, and Next year it's going to be in Memphis, and look for the Open Cup and the Student Cup. And I was like, oh my God. So, you know, what I'm saying, the reason why I'm sharing that with you is I'm trying to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row, and that organizationally we have our ducks in a row. I say that about Larry affectionately because we collectively, organizationally believed in the concept, and we launched it, and then we launched it big, and so when more news comes, I have a suspicion that the launching will equally be as big and as impactful. But I will tell you, there's lots of things being worked on, um, and in short order. I don't want to give anything away. There should be an announcement before too long about another international event that'll be taking place there in Europe. Be really close to where you guys are.
Amazing.
That's all that's all I'm going to say. I don't care. That's it. I'm not saying anything else about it.
Do you know, that's it. You know what? Sometimes the chase is better than the catch. It's more fun for us to keep guessing what you're talking about. And I do know there are many athletes and fans of the sport here in Ireland that are paying very close attention to all of these things because every day, every week, there's potentially a new ground shaking announcement coming out in powerlifting that's going to change the future of it for the benefit of everybody.
Well, I hope that this whole art, like going back to the Article 14 thing, hopefully that is upheld. And again, it's not because I want something bad to happen to another organization. I just want people to have the freedom to choose, and do what they want to do. And I think that's going to be better for the sport overall and the health of the sport. And we're growing at such an exponential rate. I don't know what it's like there for you guys. Like collegiately, we're starting to see smaller schools like NAIA are offering scholarships, but there was a time when that was not even conceivable.
Mhm.
And all it takes is one Division I school to go, you know what, we're going to do that.
Mm.
And then if you think we've got problems now providing events, the collegiate nationals here in the United States is probably the biggest meet on the planet. It's crazy. So what happens when it becomes something that colleges are going to go, we're going to do this. Now, let me explain to you why that can happen. Do you know what a largemouth bass is?
Yes. Yeah.
Fish. Okay.
Yeah.
So here in the United States, now I don't know. I'm not familiar enough across the world. Here in the United States, even a tech level school here in Tennessee offers a bass fishing scholarship, which is brilliant. And I'm going to tell you why it's brilliant. Think of this. Think of the influence that it has across the board. I'm going to be able to send my kid to school to get a college education because he's good at bass fishing. As a parent, that's enormous because I've got a kid that's getting his education. From a business standpoint and organizationally, your R&D departments doing research and development on any myriad, whether it be bass boats, motors, bait, rods and reels, all those things. Now you don't have pros clamoring, for you to give them something. You're giving it to these kids. And what better way to field test it? And if I'm a parent that is bass fishing, which I'm likely am if my kid is bass fishing, what boat do I have? Probably the boat that those kids are fishing in. Probably the rod and reel that kid's casting with, and using the baits that, you know, and I'll even take it a step further. Because I learned about this by watching it. It was on TV. I was flipping through channels, and I noticed that they were weighing a fish. I know this is riveting stuff, but I'm building to something. They're weighing a fish, and there's somebody else that's talking to the angler, and he has an iPad or some sort of, computer, and they're releasing the fish. And so now they're involved in conservation with all the organizations that are involved in that. And I know you guys have that there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're able to keep live score while they're on the water. Literally, they have a film crew in another boat. This is bass fishing. They have a live crew filming in the boat with a judge in each angler's boat, judging the angler, the athlete, and if he drops the fish in the boat, there's like a 2 minute penalty. Once the fish is weighed and releases, he has to put the rod and reel down, because that's the rule with conservation. It's the same as the expanding the rules in mixed martial arts in the UFC. They don't allow you to knee an athlete when he's down. You can't headbutt or eye gouge anymore. There's rules, there's structure. And with that came more opportunity and more reward. Now, all of a sudden, that bass fishing story I told becomes more important. What happens? You tell me, what happens if one Division I school in the United States decides to make that a sport that they'll offer an education for? How long will it take the rest of the world to follow suit? If it's in the SEC, in Southeastern Conference, let's say Texas A&M says, which they have a huge history in the sport. It's an enormous school, enormous. We have a scholarship program now for powerlifting. How long do you think it takes the other D1 schools in the SEC to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing you know, we have literally tripled our global footprint in the sport. And those are the things. That's why everything that we do right now is so important. It's gonna happen. Will it be in the next 5 years? Maybe, maybe not. In the next 10, you better be prepared for it. So everything we do right now is building the groundwork and the infrastructure of what is to come.
Mm. I think that's the best way to answer the question. I know like
Well,
there's a couple of things I understand, like we can't probably discuss because they're only in paper, but I see the big vision here for powerlifting is inevitably going to become this huge thing. Everyone's gonna know it in a way they have known most other popular sports, even field sports potentially. And it's people like yourself, people like the guys here that are on the ground and making sure that powerlifting is moving in the direction to be able to handle the demand that's going to come, because it will come inevitably.
well, I think that's the case. I mean, I'm really going out on the fringe there, so to speak, but I think that's the be required. I think those are the things that we're going to have to aspire to. Sometimes you reach for the stars and you miss, but everything that you grab along the way is still pretty immense.
Hmm.
And so, but I think it behooves us organizationally to pay attention to those things. A lot of people will tell you that powerlifting is not a hugely popular spectator sport, and I'm like, well, let me give you a couple examples and why, to give you an idea of where I'm coming from and my thought processes. I remember a time watching ESPN again, and there was this thing called the Winter X Games. And what these guys were doing were riding snow shovels down a snow-covered mountain. And I was like, this is the most ridiculous and preposterous thing I've ever seen. How is this even on ESPN? Ever heard of the Winter X Games now? I mean, now you got, Shaun White going, he's in the Olympics, doing the half, on the half pipe, it evolved that quickly in my lifetime into something that is huge.
Yeah.
And so, you, you know, I'm just using that as an example, of where the vision can be. And then that it became so wildly popular that not only was it on ESPN, now it's a professional sport. And so it's become more spectator friendly. Have you ever been to a strongman contest?
I have,
Other
yeah.
than when the guy is actually doing the event, there's a lot of big dudes, strong people standing around. So why can't we got a lot of smart people, a lot of creative people that are involved in the sport. At what point, look at what live streaming has done. You know, I'll
Mhm.
give you an example. Daniel that is in Korea, that is a meet director there. He had at his meet, he had at least 3 different points of live stream simultaneously. Is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I mean, look at the things that Jay's doing, and it's becoming we're slowly creatively making this something that is more spectator friendly. Let me tell you one more. I was at our nationals in Spokane. I was coaching Jennifer Milliken. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Mhm.
She had just made the move from 57 kilos, where she had won 2 IPF worlds, and moved up in weight to 63 kilos. And the two big, heavyweights in that division, Jen Thompson and Samantha Calhoun. I mean, it's a pretty daunting task. And at that particular meet, they had a galley for us that they would let us walk through the crowd. They had it partitioned off where we could walk through the crowd to get to the warm up area,
Mhm.
into the galley behind. The warm up area was actually the floor below, and we were, and it was prime time. It was the finals for the 63 kilo class, and the 3 of them were the premier lifters. And I will tell you, it's not often that I get that caught up in a moment, or chill bumps, or even that anxious. And it was like being at a UFC fight. There was so many people were clamoring to get a point of view and to see, standing in their chairs. It was wall to wall, and people were standing everywhere. Well, that was before the pandemic. And you mean to tell me, in this day and age, as we continue to expand, that we can't make this more spectator friendly and palatable for even the general public? Well, I beg to differ. And with the advent of CrossFit and what it's done to expand everybody's athlete base in strength sports, there's people that aren't even fans of CrossFit that watch the CrossFit games. So now, to get to, that all sounds really great, talk about it and what it looks like on paper, but we got to execute it. Well, what I'm telling you is broad and way out there in the ether as I went. We're working on those things, and we're going to
Great.
continue working on those things. And we're going to find a way to we may not make all of that happen, but we're going to make it happen. And what is to come, I think, is going to be even more exciting, because we want to not only expand where we go, but we want to go to places that people want to go, where it's safe to go, where it's, not in a war torn country, God bless those people, but places and locations that people want to go.
Mhm.
And we have all those things in mind with everything that we do.
Great. And I think what's really interesting there, you're mentioning about the three different live stream points at the Korean meet. I think it's the amazing thing is now that this is going to be so interconnected with meet directors all over the world. They can synergize and take inspiration from each other. I already know that people have taken inspiration for the way Jay presents the AB series. So I'm excited to see what happens now that we have this same mutual groupthink and the ability to take the best elements of other people's competitions and then use them to increase the either the spectator experience, the athlete experience, and the overall production of the competitions.
Well, sure. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I was coming up in the sport, there were no computers, there were no TVs, there was no live stream. There was, if somebody had a notebook of paper and you had attempt cards, and you were lucky if they had a PA and you had a meet, and I'm not diminishing that. That's the roots of what all of us did. But now, running meets, we've run local meets for 30 lifters, and there's, 4 or 5 TVs at different locations where where they have information, where they can see the scoring and all those types of things. And this is for a 30 lifter meet.
Mhm.
So we've expanded everything that we do. And I'm back to, I'm going to be repetitive, but we're creating this great experience that I think you use the word, synergy, where not only inspiration, but organizationally, people are sharing their ideas and their information with each other. And ultimately what that does is it creates not only a better product, but continuity in the product globally.
That's what's going to be the most exciting thing for me personally. I get to commentate a lot of the series. I present, as I mentioned, I coach at these things. So to see how we take this up another level now is going to be great for me. I'm really excited for next year. Wade, I have two more questions for you, and then
Okay.
I will let you go. But the one is, and it's one that a lot of people were asking about internally. They had heard rumors of potentially there being a new formula used in USA powerlifting. So is this a thing?
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. It was brought up at the NGB meeting at Nationals back in Memphis about a month ago. And so basically it's going to be taken to the technical committee. There's going to be a group of people that are going to work on a formula, and then we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Um, it's one of those things where, when that information gets out, oh, they're going to change the formula again. Maybe not. But would it not behoove us to be preemptive and be on the front end of things and going, hey, do we feel like this is, the best formula out there? Because there was a point in time where everybody was using Wilks, and then obviously that went away. Then there was the, IPF points, then there's dots. And, so you want to have something that is comparable. Wouldn't it behoove us to be on the cutting edge to, look at this again? Do we need to re-examine it? Are there things that we're missing? Are there things that would make this better? And sometimes you do all that research, you do all that work, and you do the testing, and you're like, no, what we're doing is the best way to do it. Something that you hear people say, this is the way we've always done it. Well, does that necessarily mean you should continue doing it that way? It doesn't mean that when you ask the question that you have to change. You have to be willing to ask the question and then go through the processes and procedures of being honest and open in answering the question. We may do all this work and we may not change, but we may do all this work and go, well, here's why. So everybody can take a breath on it. It's not something that's going to be immediate, and it may not be something that sees the light of day. But the smart money is doing the work and finding out.
I think there's a lot to be said for whether you use a new formula or not. Even if you don't, it's better to say, well, we went and did all the work to find out if it was worth doing, and actually it's not. So now we have an answer to give you as to why we still use dots or Wilks or whatever.
Right. Well, and that, again, we're doing the best that we can for the membership.
Okay, so I have
So hopefully that's a
one.
good answer.
It's a fantastic answer, and I think what I love about it is that like obviously somebody caught wind of something somewhere, so I had to ask. But I like that
Well,
you're
of
saying
course,
like it essentially is you guys have all these plates spinning, and some of them might never make it to the public eye, but just know that work is being done in the background to enhance the sport in whatever way you can.
absolutely. That pretty much pins it. It's pretty spot on. That even with what you see, I assure you, behind the scenes, things that nobody knows. Not that it's top secret, but what is the point of presenting something if we don't have anything? The amount of things that are being worked on is immense. That I can assure you.
Brilliant. Okay, so my last real question for you, Wade, is this is you. You've got the open mic to speak to the powerlifters of Ireland and potentially over greater parts of Europe who might be tuned in. What would your message be to them as we come into 2024 and there's going to be these new opportunities to lift on a whole different stage?
Well, I think the thing that I would implore people to do is to try. Just try it. You know, we're going to stay steep in the tradition of the sport, but we're going to break a few eggs along the way too, and we're going to do some things that are going to be different. And we're going to offer people opportunity that in the past that they haven't had, and we're going to make that opportunity. It's going to be presented, in a manner that is held to a very, very high standard. Um, you want a tested environment that's going to be provided. You want a fair and tested environment that's going to be provided. And not just for the members that are going to be competing, but the members that are judges, the members that are meet directors, is that we're going to offer you opportunity that previously you've not had. Not only to compete more often at a higher level or an international level, but for powerlifters that have invested so much as meet directors that they have the opportunity to become profitable, and that they're governed in a manner that makes sense, and that there is consistency across the board. That those are the things that I think that we're all looking for. We want governance that is firm, but we also want it to be fair, and that's not going to be for everybody. And that's okay. That's okay. And that you have the freedom to choose. I mean, isn't that what this is all about? You have the freedom to do what you want to do. And we're going to challenge people to, raise the standard. That's my goal in all of this, is not what we're doing. It's what can we do and what can we offer? And this is what I'll leave you with. I want to create a world championship that is bound by who is the best. I want to not what I'm looking for is, if I have 3 people from Ireland in the same weight class, well, why would I punish them? I want to have, let me take that back a minute. If I have 15 lifters that I can, and all of a sudden, everything that we've ever known with the national team aspect has now changed. You could be a guy that's a front runner based on your total to be in the top 3, and you make a mistake, you could still have a PR total and be in 7th place. All of a sudden, the way that you strategize, the way we coach, now everything changes, But by the same token, to have a world championship like that, I also want the person that can afford a ticket to fly over to Dublin and lift in one of Jay's meets. There's going to be meets that are going to have a qualifying criteria, and I understand that, and justifiably so. But there's, like the Euro Tour, it brings everybody to the table, and everybody has something to offer in that environment. So if you want to be part of something bigger and part of something that is going to play to what your convictions and your beliefs are, and what you deem as fair and level, well, strap in, because the ride is going to get pretty quick, really fast.
Wade, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. If you wouldn't mind, please tell the people where they can find you if they want to hear more from you or more about the future of USA powerlifting.
You can always reach out to me at international at usapowerlifting.com. That is my USA Powerlifting email. You can find me on Instagram. The 2 easy ones is, the gym has an Instagram. It's the _ogre_compound. and then at big weight 800. And that's my personal one. That's where you'll see the one where the bar and all the stuff in the house. That's where you'll see all that stuff. And I'm on Facebook. You can find me there. And there's different podcasts that I've done. We're actually talking about Chris and I used to do a podcast called Powerlifting Mastered. If you have nothing else to do and you're bored out of your mind, look up Powerlifting Mastered. Chris Elmore and I, a good buddy of mine, we did that, and we were very masters oriented, and we're talking about bringing that back, and maybe doing something monthly or something like that. But I'm happy to do this again. I'm happy to do it for other people, and and I'm not afraid to answer questions, and I'm not afraid to tell you that I don't know, and I will find out that I'll go to the people that do know, and I'll get you that answer. So I don't pretend to know it all. I don't want to know it all. It takes a village and an organization to pull this off, and I'm just glad to be part of it. And I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you very much, and a very sincere thank you from me and everybody. We're very grateful for your time and very excited for the future. Wade, I'll let you go there. Thank you very much. It's been real. Gang, check out all the links below, including every one of the links Wade just mentioned. His podcast hopefully does bring it back and we hear more about some great opportunities coming for the future of powerlifting. We'll chat to you soon.